So now that we've talked about use cases, we're going to go into how to prepare enterprise data for AR use, and we'll have Jonathan Zufi from SAP come up. I don't know what it is with these German companies. We've got Bosch, we've got SAP. Is your clicker?
Someone's always bashing SAP. Can you grab the next one? Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jonathan Zufi. I work for SAP. I run a team called the Mobile Innovation Centre. I'm based out of Atlanta, and we help SAP's really big customers solve a lot of their problems in mobility. We do that by helping them visualise their mobility vision. They might be building an app for a smartphone, might be building a solution on smart glasses, or even on a watch. Just a really quick survey. Anyone in the audience, a developer or working on building enterprise applications or talking to an enterprise backend? Yep, okay, great. So there's a lot of really cool tech here at the show. I've only been to one of the sessions, but to be able to take all of that hardware and software technology and then overlay it onto the enterprise is a pretty massive opportunity. That's probably why you're here. And the trick is to be able to unlock that information. SAP's been around for a while. We've got nearly 300,000 customers worldwide. And with stats like these as developers or potential vendors of third-party solutions, when it comes to wearables and AR technology, you've got enormous potential. As you can see, 85% of Fortune 500 companies run SAP. Now, a lot of those companies are also running probably a hybrid landscape. They've got Salesforce, Oracle, Microsoft. So when I talk about enterprise data, obviously I'm going to be talking about SAP data, but it should translate pretty much to those other platforms as well. This is a typical representation of how you would actually get to the ERP data that's stuck behind a firewall or in all of your back-end systems. So you've got this disparate landscape of data, and then you have some kind of platform in the middle, and then you expose that, and it's normally via REST, and we'll get to that in a minute. Vendor X, obviously I'm with SAP. We have a solution called the SAP Mobile Platform. IBM has one called Worklight. There are lots of other vendors in the market, and it's typically known as a MEAP, Mobile Enterprise Application Platform, and it does a bunch of things that help you manage your enterprise data and make sure that it's delivered securely to a device. For the longest time, lots of SAP's customers and actually SAP themselves used a lot of proprietary connectors to expose their back-end data. So a few years ago, SAP made the decision to adopt OData as the standard, and that's how information is now exposed on the ERP stack. The mobile world has pretty much embraced RESTful web services across the board, and OData is a superset of REST. The problem is that REST is an architecture and there's really no formal governing body or standard. OData, however, is a formal protocol. It was created by Microsoft back in 2007. You may have also heard of it. It's been referred to as ODBC for the web. It's currently version 4, and at a very simplistic level, it allows you to do database operations against your backend over HTTP. There are 4 main types of operations: CRUD, create, read, update, and delete, and they map to specific HTTP verbs, in this case post, get, put, and delete. What's really compelling about OData is that you can describe how your data looks. There are two other pieces to OData. There's the service document, which defines which entities you're actually exposing, and then there's the metadata document, which defines how your information is actually typed. There are a lot of advantages in actually doing that. You can expose your information as XML or JSON, but then you can do a bunch of things. I just wanted to touch on three of them. OData is inherently queryable, so out of the box you can do things like show me all of the prices between a specific date range, things like top, sort, and filter. Delta tokens, so if you put on a pair of smart glasses, you go out into the field, you know you're going to be offline, you're going to want to pull a bunch of information and have it locally reside in local storage on the device. When you get back to the office and you sync with the network, you don't want to have to pull down 100,000 records again. So Delta tokens allow you to know what differences have happened in the network. And e-tags is another mechanism inside the OData protocol that lets you handle synchronization conflicts when you're going on and offline. There are two main product solutions at SAP that expose this, NetWeaver Gateway and SAP HANA. I'll let you visit SAP's SCN website for a lot more details. What's interesting to note here is that what NetWeaver Gateway typically does is that it flattens BAPI. So a BAPI is a business API, which is an API exposed by one of SAP's core modules. There are over 100,000 BAPIs out there that you need to work out how to navigate, and some of those BAPIs can actually have upwards of 1,000 parameters in the calls, which are completely impractical for consumption, even in a desktop application, but certainly for a mobile scenario. And so what NetWeaver Gateway does is allows you to flatten those BAPIs and expose the pieces you want through web services and OData. When people talk about SAP, or when people talk about ERP, they're typically talking about a broad range of business modules that cover things like HR, CRM, financials. One area that SAP has enormous penetration is in warehouses. There are over 100,000 warehouses around the world that are running SAP, and we have two platform solutions. One's called WM Warehouse Management and the other one's called Extended Warehouse Management, and they deal with a number of really complex problems that happen in a warehouse. So that was a really ripe place for us to actually go and build a solution. We have two live shipping GA solutions in production, so these are not pilots, these are actually products that we sell, the companion products onto the warehouse management platforms, and these are currently either in trials or live pilots are actually in production at over 50 really large companies that you will all have heard of. So we're doing a lot of really interesting stuff in this space. The challenge is that this is typically how warehouses deal with SAP information. They'll go and pick something from a tray, or they'll put something in a source bin, and they have to walk down some stairs and walk up to a terminal that looks like this, which is absolutely horrible. So with OData, you can now go and expose your information in a very structured manner. I've just zoomed in on a particular snippet of information. This is called the metadata document, and as you can see, it's a way to structurally represent the fields that you want and need to consume on the wearable device, whether it's a watch or a smartphone or some smart glasses. Once you do that, then you can go and create some really elegant interfaces like this one. This is our AR warehouse picker. Very simple, very elegant. Actually, I think one of the exhibitors on the show floor will be showing. I think it's on-the-go software. We've embedded some of their technology in there as well. I'm not going to get into security too much. It's pretty complex. It's usually the biggest stumbling block in any rollout of whether it's smart glass solutions or even just doing things on a regular tablet or smartphone. The MEEPs that I referred to earlier will typically allow you to handle a lot of those credential management schemes and security issues. We support, all the major ones: Kerberos, LDAP, SAML, things like that. But dealing with that is you're going to hit that problem whether you're deploying a smartphone application or an AR application. The thing is to make sure that you try and make that user experience really, really seamless so that it doesn't impact the user. So just finishing up, elegant UIs. It's really important to have a very elegant UI and UX when you're dealing with AR experiences. But you also really need an elegant data model so that you're only shoveling the data that you actually need to the device. Offline is really, really important, and it's actually really hard to do right. So make sure that you are working with a platform or an architecture that allows you to handle offline well. I spoke about OData today. You can roll your own solution in-house. There are also third-party vendors that provide plug-in frameworks that you can drop in and actually do that. There are lots of OData. If you haven't already discovered power of OData, there are lots of examples out there on the web for developers. There's heaps of resources, Stack Overflow, SAP's SCN, obviously Microsoft, and the .NET tooling in Visual Studio has fantastic support for grabbing existing data and then exposing it via OData. And do I still have a couple minutes? I just wanted to show one other really quick example of some of the interesting things that you can do with SAP data. Sorry, folks. Some of the screenshots and other information I showed you was a lot of textual stuff, but a few years ago SAP acquired a company called Right Hemisphere and bought their technology, and it's now called Visual Enterprise, and it's a 3D visualization framework. You've probably seen this application. It's available in the App Store for free. There's a very rich SDK for developers, both on iOS and Android, obviously on Windows as well. There's a very complex authoring tool where you can ingest existing 3D models, animate them, and create these things called steps, also known as procedural adherence. So if you have smart glasses and you want to overlay a 3D model onto the real world, or if you're doing true augmented reality, we've done a lot of work with Mateo. Before they're not around anymore, congratulations to them. We were actually overlaying, we actually did a lot of work with their engineers where we overlay using markers, either specific markers or image markers. We overlay 3D models from Visual Enterprise directly onto the scene. It's really, really cool stuff. Come see me later on. I'm happy to give you a lot more information about that. We're also looking at working with some of the other AR vendors and frameworks out there today. What's amazing from a development perspective about this toolkit is the performance is just out of this world. We have guys on oil rigs who are using Visual Enterprise, and they're actually representing enormously complex pieces of equipment that have nearly 2 million unique polygons or specific items, I should say. And what's nice about this particular framework is that it's very friendly in terms of metadata, so you can actually translate a lot of those queries that you have in the kind of database world over to a visual perspective. So if you want to say, show me all of the components in my factory that are currently overheating, you might be getting SCADA information coming down, show me all of the equipment that's overheating over a certain temperature, and you can visualize that as well. So really cool technology. I can give you a demo later on or answer any questions. But this is just another kind of aspects about how enterprise data can be consumed and visualized from an SAP perspective. So I've got 2 minutes if anyone has any questions. Nope. Thank you very much.